You are going to die, rich or poor. And all the money in the world cannot change that. So do not buy the myth that enough money can ever make you one iota more secure than you are right now. You got to build your life on something stronger than that. The reality is, housing values will go up and down. Bank accounts rise and fall. Financial conditions ebb and flow. Can't build my life on that stuff. What is more solid? And I think what Jesus, the smartest guy about money who ever lived, would say today is, build your life on what never changes, and what never changes is the character and the power of our God. I was thinking how there's a ticker that everybody pays attention to these days on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. What's up, what's down, what's unchanged. I was thinking, if there was a ticker for the kingdom of God, what matters most is the character and the competence of our God. And here's how that ticker would read. God's character today, unchanged. God's patience today, unchanged. God's commitment to justice today, unchanged. God's heart of mercy today, unchanged. God's love for you, unchanged. God's moral compass, unchanged. The market has dropped, see, but nothing in heaven has changed today. God is still sovereign. Jesus still sits on the throne at the right hand of his Father. He is our rock. He is the anchor in the storm. He is our only hope. He is the North Star that alone we can be guided by. And by the way, Congress does not get to vote on this. And by the way, the next president will not need to cobble a deal to make arrangements for the kingdom of God. And by the way, the kingdom of God will never need a bailout from the U.S. Treasury. It's doing real well. So don't buy the myth that money can make you secure. Get your security someplace else. Then I think Jesus would say it's time to expose the myth that more will one day get you to happy. Because in normal times, see, that myth can be real seductive. One of the values in times like these is that myth can get exposed. Paul put it like this: but godliness with contentment is great gain. Those who want to get rich, I don't know how to say it more plainly than this. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Just ask you a question. Do we live in a part of the world that tempts people to want to get rich? Kind of. A little bit. Our society immerses us in the idea that the path to true satisfaction lies in more. This is fascinating. I was reading this week. There's a guy named Thomas Pinnow. He's an executive with the Mars Candy Company who has an interesting title. His title is Vice President of Indulgence. No kidding. Wouldn't you like to have that on your business card? Vice President of Indulgence. And charged with coming up with ideas like the creation of what are called M&M premiums that you can buy for up to $100 for a batch of M&Ms. That you can get designer M&Ms with your own face on them so you can consume yourself if you want to. Premiumization, premium M&Ms, see? That's become a corporate buzzword. And the race to expand our appetites for luxury and consumption is never ending. There is now, you can buy, I'm not making this up, Tasmanian water that sells $25 for a bottle of water. Because supposedly it was bottled in a place near where the World Health Organization says has the cleanest air in the world. $25 for a bottle of water. What kind of world are we living in? You can buy now what is called Renova Black. Anybody here know what Renova Black is? I'm not making this up. It is designer toilet paper. Renova Black, and you can buy it. Builders of luxury tract homes on the East Coast, known as McMansions, these fabulous places that spare no expense, have landed on this as their sale pitch, and they put it in newspaper ads, and they're quite proud about it. We sell what nobody needs. We sell what nobody needs. Isn't that wonderful? And of course, the human condition is we need what nobody sells. A friend of mine went to business school. They used the case study approach, and when their profs would talk about companies, corporations, they would examine them, and then they would always ask the same question. They would say, now students, look at this corporation, look at this company. Who's winning today, greed or fear? Only two choices every day. Who's winning, greed or fear? The idea was that when things are going well, when the charts are up and to the right, then greed is in the driver's seat, because the upside of more always outweighs the downside of risk. So now greed is in the driver's seat. Greed's winning the day. But then if things start going badly, if the economy turns upside down, then everybody panics, and then fear is in the driver's seat. And courage is withdrawn, because now the downside of loss when you risk outweighs the upside of getting more. Who's winning today? Greed or fear? But here's what was so interesting to me when he was telling me these stories. Those are the only two choices. Who's winning today? It's either greed or fear. And they would never ask these brightest and best students at this fabulous business school, who's winning with this little community of human beings, mercy or integrity? See, those weren't options. Who's winning today? Gratitude or generosity? Those weren't options. Just two options in this economy, fear or greed. Let me ask you, in our economy, in our world today, right now, who's winning, fear or greed? Fear is winning, and everybody knows. The U.S. government now is actually printing out a new kind of currency where physically the picture on the dollar mirrors the mood of our nation. Take a look. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Okay. Doesn't that just kind of hit home right now? Like, that's us right now. That's George, man. George is not having a good day. Very ironic to me. There's a little four-word motto printed on every dollar. Anybody know what it is? On dollar bills, in God we trust. That's kind of funny, isn't it? Because see, money, because of the fallenness of human being, because we are spiritual beings, and money is this intersection of value, which is a spirit concept, and physicality, money wants to get us to trust it. Why Jesus says stuff like, nobody can serve two masters. Nobody can serve God and mammon, the money god, the more god. Because if we trust it, then we will spend our lives with either fear or greed in the driver's seat, one or the other, if we're trusting money. Economics, a very complex subject, and I know well, lots of you, probably most of you, are better versed in it than me. But I will say this about our current situation. It does seem to me that part of why we are where we are is that when things are going up, then lenders want to lend, borrowers want to borrow, nobody wants to be left out, greed is running riot, we'll leverage everything, risk everything, because we don't want to get left out and get more. So companies, corporations on Wall Street that a few years ago would borrow $8 for every $1 that they owned, got to the point where they're borrowing $30 for every $1 they own. Now that's called leverage, and we were leveraging everything. Why? I don't want to get left out. Greed's winning today. And then the bubble pops, and then all of a sudden fear takes over. And now lenders don't want to lend, builders don't want to build, hirers don't want to hire. What have we lost? There's been no loss of competence. There's been no loss of technology. There's been no loss of know-how. What's happened? Well, fear has just moved into the driver's seat instead of greed. And see, God's intent is not for us to live in either fear or greed. The tricky part is greed, because greed is one of those sins that is hardest to see in ourselves. Some sins are very concrete. If I'm stealing something or lying to somebody or committing adultery, I pretty much know when I'm doing one of those things. But the tricky thing with greed is I can always find somebody who's more materialistic or a bigger spender than me, can't I, to make me look good by comparison. Always can.